And welcome once again to the Sports Skillet Radio Show. We want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us. Reminder that you can comment on our show, on our social media. We will see the comments live during the show and be able to respond to them. So feel free to leave your responses. If there's something you want us to discuss during the show, feel free to comment and we will discuss it during the show. We are extremely interactive here on the Sports Skillet Radio Show. Again, thank you for taking time out of your schedule and joining us. Again, however you're finding us, whether it be on our social media channels at Sports Skillet Radio or the Heat Ratio, who we want to thank also for hosting us as well. Great shows are on the Heat Ratio, so check out the schedule for the Heat Ratio and all the fine shows such as Flyer and Ice, as well as a lot of daily fantasy shows and everything. Great show lineup on the Heat Ratio as well as here on Sports Skillet. And check out sportsskilletradio.com for all the latest show news, sports update. We got a Twitter feed. Great articles by Mike Nebby as well on there. So definitely check out sportsskilletradio.com. Again, and you can also tweet us at Sports Skillet if you so desire, or comment on our Facebook page. However you want to join us, feel free to leave us a comment as well. So again, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us. I am Jay. I'm joined this week by Mike Nebbia, my brother Jeff, and we are always privileged to have the coach Shane McGowan joining us. Shane, can you let everybody know how they can find you on your social media accounts?
Yeah, you can reach me at mentaledgeperformance.ca, or my social media is mental_edge_performance. Gentlemen, how are we doing this weekend?
We are doing really well, but a lot better than Henry Ruggs III, Shane. Your Raiders wide receiver, who got himself into a bit of a pickle this past week, charged with DUI as well as other driving offenses in a horrific motor vehicle accident that happened out in Vegas this past week. The Raiders subsequently released Henry Ruggs III. He is no longer on the LA Raiders, causing the death of a young lady as well as her pet who was in the car, her dog who was in the car at the time. Shane, just a horrific motor vehicle accident that happened out in Vegas this past week.
No, I mean, no question about it. And let's put it this way. The Vegas Raiders have not had the last few weeks of any luck, other than they've been fortunate enough to win their last two games in that way. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's been tough, and it's an unfortunate and sad situation that just transpired. I mean, with taking a life like that, I mean, it's a heart goes out to that family of that innocent victim and things too. And just kind of, again, you're looking at things that happen too much with young individuals who have a big payday, a big paycheck, and don't think about others in so many ways. And I mean, we preach that. They tell it to them in that locker room, night in and night out, of certain things. When you're out, leave the vehicle, call somebody, get your rides that you need, and so on. But when you're going that fast and you've got a blood alcohol level that high and everything else, plus you had a weapon in your car too, plus you've got other things. So, I mean, this is not a good scene at all. And it just kind of goes down again too, is where I think inside that organization, you are going to see a little bit more of accountability and shakeups and things like that coming soon, in which it's kind of like, listen, we look like idiots as an organization because of everything transpiring. And that's not a good look for a brand new team in a brand new facility, refresh, restarting, everything like this, to have this blowing up halfway through a season. You know what I mean? So, like I said, there's going to be some things that are going to be taken care of. I believe in that organization. I believe still in my organization, as I always will, and stuff with these Raiders. But again, too, is to everyone out there, I mean, this is this type of stuff you got to look at and think about and say, listen, you can't get behind the wheel of these type of things like that. You can't do that. You know what I mean? Then this is what's going to happen. This man just lost his life because, like I said, you can get anywhere from 2 to 40 years. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, this is just not a good scene. But like I said, my condolences to that family and everything of the passing. And I mean, I hope Mr. Ruggs understands that and is remorse in what has transpired, as well as to his girlfriend and everything like that too.
Yeah, exactly. And thoughts and prayers go out to the family of Tina Tintor, who was a woman killed in the car crash involving Raiders player Henry Ruggs III. Jeff, you heard about this. What were your thoughts about the car accident?
Just the same kind of echo the comments of Shane. You just you shake your head. I mean, this is why Uber, is out there. I mean, this is why ride services are out there for these athletes to take advantage, and to do this and to not get behind the wheel and. And to save a life. I mean, she should be alive. I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, she should be going about her life right now, but because he was negligent in not taking a ride sharing service and getting behind the wheel and, like he said, having a weapon in the car and all this kind of stuff and compounding it. He deserves everything he gets. Quite frankly. So.
Yeah,
It's a bad situation for the Raiders and a terrible situation, for the league to have to deal with this.
oh, absolutely. And Mike, he was going 150 miles an hour in his car. No excuse for that, Mike.
Absolutely no excuse. Where does he think he was? Atlanta Motor Speedway? No. There's no excuse for going 3 times the speed limit, mind you, on a closed course. You can't do that. Especially on a public road. You cannot do that. No.
No,
It's basically over now.
And he's only, Henry Ruggs III, only 22 years old. Football career is probably definitely over because they have a mandatory jail sentence if you are convicted of this crime. So if Ruggs is convicted, there's a mandatory jail sentence. It's not like he could get probation or something like that. No, if you're convicted of this crime out in Vegas, he's definitely going to jail. And just not really thinking, getting into his car and driving 150 miles an hour. I mean, just absolutely thoughtless on his part. And, thoughts and prayers go out to her family, and hopefully they can do what they can to hopefully we can do what we can to support Tina Tintor and her surviving members, her friends, and her family. We had another story break this past week, Shane. Aaron Rodgers apparently has tested positive for COVID. He parsed his words earlier in the preseason when he said he was, what was the term?
Immunized.
Immunized. That's the word. Yep. Immunized, not vaccinated. And then he kind of parsed his words there. And then he got upset by the fact that the story was leaked. No, it wasn't leaked. It was the fact that there are separate protocols involved for those who are vaccinated versus those who are not vaccinated. And all the media had to do was say, okay, is Aaron Rodgers going to be able to test negative within a certain period of time so that he'll be able to play on Sunday? When that wasn't a possibility, obviously it was acknowledged that he wasn't vaccinated. So it wasn't that the story leaked Aaron Rodgers. It was the fact that the media has a brain, and those in the media were able to deduce the fact that you weren't vaccinated. So Aaron Rodgers will not be playing this week for the Green Bay Packers. And again, we have another player in the NFL not vaccinated, Shane.
Well, I mean, it's kind of funny because they brought up a fellow from the Green Bay area as a media consultant there and said, you know what? Media kind of dropped the ball when it came out earlier, and he said that he was immunized. Nobody else followed up on it. Nobody said, like, oh, so does that mean you're vaccinated or does that mean you're not vaccinated, right? Nobody followed up. They let it go. And that was how many weeks ago when he was doing that and said that, right? So that was something that just kind of then brushed under the carpet until now, when it filters and says, "Oh, you don't have a vaccination status. You know what I mean? You're not vaccinated." So that was kind of a little bit of a pie in the media of the Green Bay area. You know what I mean? Of them kind of dropping the ball on that and pushing. Then when Rodgers got offended, naturally, because Rodgers does get offended, you know what I mean, about these things and feels it's a witch hunt and all this. I mean, again, too, is you got to read between the lines of things, is that, you know, he wasn't getting the shot in that way, and he wasn't going to, you know, tell anybody else in that locker room who also, you know, may not be vaccinated as well. You know what I mean? And that was it. He kept his mouth in a political matter, you know what I mean, and just kind of kept it that way. He played the politic game, is what he did. He skirted around in a politician way, put it that way. Okay. Now it's all come to light, and now he's got to face the wrath of everything. And I think in some ways he sort of had to have known that he had a very high chance, you know what I mean? Because listen, even being vaccinated, you still have a chance. There's no questions about it, right? Yeah. Like let's call it as it is. The problem is that now you got the more ramifications because you aren't, and how it can spread a little bit more and possibly cause you a lot more, you know, damages to you of longer in your health wise, right? Of getting back onto that field. It's not like some of these guys, like the coaches. Look at Arizona had how many coaches out? You know, the Peyton, not the Peyton, but the Saints have had how many coaches out throughout the year? You know what I mean? It runs through. There's no question about it. The problem is that now you got to also look as a team that you're playing against, and not only in your own locker room and stuff like this too, but who else is going to get this trickle down of, you know, problem? I mean, look at New York. And this is the other thing too, is New York all of a sudden has this huge 13 people test, but they had 12 false negatives. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's very frustrating for these organizations. It's very inside of that athlete too. They're going, what the heck, man? Like, I feel fine. Like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? And now you're telling me I can't do this because of a false positive readings and all this thing. So there's a lot of things that are happening right now that I think they need to look at and clean up a little bit better. They have the money to do it for Pete's sakes, because like I said, you don't need any added stress. You don't need any more attention brought to you and things like that too in any organization. You know what I mean? So like I said, it's pretty frustrating stuff. But on the Aaron Rodgers side, look, at the man made his decision of what he wanted and what he doesn't want to do at this particular time and everything. And I don't think it's not necessarily he doesn't believe in the vaccine. I think it's more or less he wants more information before they move forward with a vaccine. You know what I mean? And stuff. I think that's kind of how he's getting his point across in some ways. So we'll see as this unfolds and everything like that. But I know sponsorships and everything have sort of kind of dwindled away from them a little bit on this too, because they're in favor of vaccines. Well, you can't have somebody that's not vaccinated as your campaign spokesman. You know what I mean? So there's going to be a lot of downfall as this moves forward a little bit.
Yeah, and Jeff, multiple coaches and front office executive have complained that their teams were held to different COVID-19 protocol standards over the summer than the Packers. The NFL instructed teams that unvaccinated players were required to wear a mask along the sidelines during preseason games. Aaron Rodgers did not. And it said one team executive said he received a memo from the NFL that read in part, any such individual with bench area access who is not fully vaccinated, except for active players, shall be required to wear a mask at all times. Unvaccinated inactive players must also wear masks. And apparently, Jeff, the NFL is investigating how the Packers handled the COVID-19 protocols at their facility around games. And the league is also going to look at video footage from inside the team's training facility to see that masks were being worn and protocols were being adhered to. This could be a big thing involving maybe a fine or maybe involve draft picks involving the Packers. Jeff, do you think?
You know, this is just another, scandal and another problem for the Shield, for the NFL to deal with. It's not a positive development by any means. This is, look, you have one of the most recognizable players in your sport, one of the more high-profile players in your sport, uh, unvaccinated, not willing to take the shot. Okay, that's his choice. But at the same time, if you're not, then you gotta mask up, and you gotta follow the right protocols if you're unvaccinated. And it's just, and again, it's amazing because, Aaron Rodgers is taking these, and he's not even taking, he's not even getting vaccinated. He's taking these, he's just taking these, other, I don't want to say supplements or whatever, but he's taking these alternative treatments now, rather than becoming vaccinated. It's just, it's to me, this is just crazy, and I was this, not being cynical, but the big losers in all this are Joe Buck and Troy Aikman and Fox, who are hoping to have Aaron Rodgers versus Pat Mahomes later today at 4:05 p.m. That's now gone up in smoke. So so that's gone. So you don't have that premier matchup going on at 4:05. So you have Pat Mahomes obviously against what is it, Buddy Love, going on here. I mean, come on. I mean, really. So it's the NFL is based. The NFL is built on quarterbacks, and that's why you see Tom Brady playing. Not to segue or anything, but this is why you see Tom Brady and these other quarterbacks playing as well as they are, throwing for 300 yards a game, because the NFL has put in put in the rules to protect these quarterbacks, because if they don't, then these networks matchups go up in smoke. I mean, who wants to watch Pat Mahomes against Buddy Love? I mean, who wants to watch it? I certainly want. I want to watch Pat Mahomes against Aaron Rodgers. I don't care for that matchup now. So the ratings definitely take a hit right there.
I don't. Well, before I respond to Jeff, what did you think of this announcement, Mike, about Aaron Rodgers being unvaccinated and testing positive for COVID?
They let this guy guest host Jeopardy. Seriously? No, just no. I hope the NFL cracks down on him, doesn't let him play until he's vaccinated.
Well, I don't know that they could do that. That would be more of a Packers thing, I think, and I don't think the NFL would want that, because
the Packers are not going to do that in any way, shape, or form. They're not that stupid.
I would.
Well, that's true. You would, but the Packers want to win. The Packers want to win the Super Bowl. They only have one loss on the season.
And you can't infringe on a person's right to be vaccinated or unvaccinated. That's a person's choice,
right,
whether they want to take the vaccine or not. But as a business, you don't have to employ that person or whatever. To your point, but you can't. But the NFL isn't going to do that.
Football is not just a sport; it's a business, and you have to run football as if it were a business. You have to run sports as if it were a business. And if it was me in charge of the Packers or the NFL, I'd say, Aaron Rodgers, get vaccinated or you don't play. Period.
Yeah, but then you open yourself up to lawsuits and things like that, Mike, with the Players Association. So they already have.
I'm sorry. I would be tough on players that don't get vaccinated. We're in a pandemic and we want to get out of the pandemic.
Oh, this is true. No doubt about it.
Getting out of the pandemic is priority one.
Oh, absolutely. But
here's the thing, Jay. I just want to say this. Here's the thing. Don't you think that because it's Aaron, if this was, let's say, the Eagles quarterback getting learning that we learned that the Eagles quarterback hypothetically was unvaccinated. Do you really think that the NFL would not have cracked down very hard on the Eagles and so forth, the way that they're not cracking down on Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, because they're Aaron Rodgers and the Packers?
Well, I do think actually I think it'll probably be close to the same. I think you probably would have heard about it before now. if it, if it was the Eagles quarterback, I don't think it would have taken this long. That it would have come out long before now. But I think because he was acting the way that he was acting, the fact that he tried to keep his vaccination status hidden, that he wasn't truthful and honest. Because let's face it, when you're an athlete, eventually your vaccination status will come out, whether if you get the virus or in some other way, shape, or form. I think it will come out based upon the way you're handling yourself, if you're wearing a mask, if you're not wearing a mask. I saw Carson Wentz on Thursday night. As soon as he took off his helmet, he would put on his mask. When he was on the sideline, like his helmet would come off and the mask would come on right away because he's one of the people that are unvaccinated. So he was wearing his mask on the sideline. That's one of the things that jumped out at me on Thursday night when the Colts played. How quickly he put on his mask. So the fact that Aaron Rodgers did not do this has a lot of people up in arms too. But I do think that this will be an intriguing matchup, and I am picking the Packers to win, Jeff, by the way, over the Kansas City Chiefs today. Because I do think that Love is going to the way the Packers run the ball, and I do think the Packers have a better defense than the Kansas City Chiefs. So I am picking the Packers to win this. And if Love does play well, does this create a little bit more of a controversy out there in Green Bay as to whether or not Aaron Rodgers will return next season to be the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers? What do you think, Shane?
No, I think it's a given that he's not going to return. I mean, I honestly, I really do. I think it's a given that he's not going to return. And plus, I also think that how this organization is going to handle this whole situation now with him in this COVID and all this stuff is also just putting him into that position of saying, yeah, this is why I don't want to be here or I'm going to be here too in some ways, right? Look at he's having a great season. Don't get me wrong. I do believe Rodgers is having a good season thus far. When the guys are out there and they're healthy, look at even for them to take out Arizona and do what they did. You know what I mean? Without Devontae Adams, I mean that's huge. Aaron Jones is playing extremely well. The defense is still keeping them in the game and everything in there. But Rodgers is Rodgers. Let's give the man credit. He is smart when it comes to ball control. He understands the game and everything like that. I think he's just biding his time this year, keeping himself fresh. Yes, he wants that Super Bowl. Who wouldn't want to again go out of an organization, with a ring, you know what I mean, and go somewhere else, just like what Brady did. You know what I mean? And I think that's how he's put himself and classified himself. So I don't think that with Love coming in, if Love wins tonight, as this example, this afternoon, will it cause a controversy? No, I think they're just going to keep him going and things until Rodgers is healthy enough to get out there and play and finish off the season. But in the back of Green Bay's mind, they're saying, yes, we've got our quarterback for later down the road, so we're going to be okay.
Yep. What do you think, Jeff?
If Kansas City loses this game, then their season is really in jeopardy, at this point. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Kansas City, given the fact that Aaron Rodgers is not playing in this game, they've got to find a way to win it in that division to be, playoff contender, in the AFC. So this is a game, Kansas City has to win. If Kansas City loses this game, it's gonna put a big, dent in their playoff hopes. Frankly, I'd be surprised if Pat Mahomes, loses this game, given the fact that Aaron Rodgers isn't playing. Andy Reid, Andy Reid, and Pat Mahomes, they on that deal, they have to find a way of bucking up and winning this game. No question about it.
How do you see this game going, Mike?
I swear, Kansas City loses, their playoff hopes are basically done. Kansas City has to win, and I think they will, considering Aaron Rodgers is out.
Gotcha. Another couple of interesting stories that came out of the NFL this week. Number one is the fact that Odell Beckham Jr. and Desean Jackson are going to be free agents as of Monday. Desean Jackson already is. The Rams have released him. Odell Beckham Jr. has apparently come to a contract agreement with the Cleveland Browns, and they're going to release him on Monday, and then teams will have up until 4 p.m. on Tuesday to put in a waiver claim for him. If no team does, he'll become an overall free agent and be able to sign with any team. Shane, what do you think about these two wide receivers hitting the free agent market at this time?
Well, I know Vegas needs a receiver, so
That they do.
My 49ers could use a receiver.
That they could. Absolutely.
The only thing is as it's been told is that you're also picking up a $7 million price tag. You know what I mean? And that is going to be a little bit iffy when it comes to OBJ and teams that can fit in with that, right? Everything can be reconstructed and things like this. But again, like I said, he is going to get picked up, and there's a few landing spots. I think there's possibly 4 out there that he has his eyes on that have probably shown the interest to him already in some ways that he's going to pop into. I know there was talk of him actually going to Pittsburgh with all of that injuries, but then they felt that you'd be another Antonio Brown saga if that happened. You know what I mean?
And we don't want that.
They don't. Well, Pittsburgh. But I don't see Ben sticking around much longer, so that's another question there too. But I'm just saying is I don't think right now the team wants that with what they have in there and things, even though they've got the guys that went out with injuries, which is unfortunate, but with Juju in them. But like I said, I do think Odell will get picked up, no question about it. And it may not be quite a surprise of where he goes. It's just about how that team can fit him in the salary cap.
Now, do you think he would get claimed on waivers, or do you think it would be after he becomes an overall free agent and teams could structure his contract the way they see fit?
That's kind of the question that I think there's. From what I was told, there's about 3 teams that are looking at that, and they're saying, "Listen, are you going to pick him up and take the tag, or are you going to just let it ride and then we can just offer him after?" So I think I'm not sure if somebody wants to scoop in right now and pay that $7 million. You know what I mean? And I think others are kind of saying, okay, you can take him too. But I mean, there's a little bit of phone calls going on amongst them. But I'm saying is that there's 4 teams, and I think none of the GMs want to kind of, I will say, screw each other over by saying, yeah, we're gonna get you. You know what I mean? Where you end up having to pay that $7 million right off the hop. Yeah. I think they're willing to say, okay, you know what? Go ahead, take them. Let it ride. No one's going to bite on it. And then you can then negotiate, you know what I mean? And stuff like this. But I don't know. The NFL can be funky sometimes, right? As they say, you can get some GMs that just got to say, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden they just pull it out and stuff. But, I'll never know. Maybe he heads off to Green Bay too. Who knows?
Green Bay, one of the teams being rumored, the Saints, Raiders, maybe the Patriots, Bills, maybe one of those teams.
Maybe a return to New York.
No.
They need receivers.
No.
No. I will.
They need a team.
Yeah. Based upon what came out about Odell, and I think the same thing goes for Desean Jackson as well. I mean, you got to look at what teams are putting in an offer for you, of course. But I believe those two veteran receivers are looking for a team that is in a win now mode, that has a shot at getting to that is the Super Bowl contender. That you could see being in the championship game of their particular conference. And I don't believe that would be the Giants, Mike. I don't think anybody's putting the Giants. Now, who knows? Could the Giants all of a sudden miraculously turn things around and reel off, who knows? But I don't believe the Giants are being talked about as being a team that's in the championship game window conversation. So I don't think that either one of those two receivers would opt for either one of the two New York teams, either the Giants or the Jets. I just don't think that that's what they're looking at. They're looking for a team, like I said, like the Packers, maybe like the New Orleans Saints, that have a good head coach in place, that maybe they might be able to sign a 2-year deal. Like Sean Payton is a good head coach of the Saints. And now the Saints have lost their quarterback. They lost Jameis Winston, so that could be a determining factor there for the two wideouts. But maybe that puts the Green Bay Packers over the top. What do you think, Jeff?
I think you could look at any one of these teams, put them in a hopper, and sort of just pick out a team as to where these veteran wide receivers land. It'll be interesting to see because there are a number of teams, obviously, as Shane pointed out, that could use a wide receiver, that could use a veteran wide receiver, but it's amazing how these two veteran guys, have gotten to this point of being released by their franchise. I mean, these two guys obviously, at one point had skills. It'll be interesting to see what they really have left, at this point, to offer to these teams as they move on. Obviously, look, I mean, you're gonna bring him in. You're gonna see, how he fits and so forth, and I mean, whether it's Desean Jackson or whether it's Odell Beckham, you just have to, look at what you have and whether or not there's a fit there in your organization for them. And like Shane said, whether you want to try and pick them up as a waiver claim, which would be an interesting development, but. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, look, I mean, there are teams that are all in right now. We know the Rams are all in. I mean, the Rams are just picking up everybody, left and right. We know that, a good landing spot for one of these guys will probably be New Orleans, because, look, I mean, they're a playoff team. They've beaten Tampa Bay now. So, they're a team that, like you said, they've lost their quarterback, but still, I mean, that's an organization that, look, they could go into and make a run in the playoffs. So we'll just have to see, what happens and potentially where these guys land. But to me, the fascinating part is how far these guys have fallen from where they were, at the height. I mean, Odell Beckham was considered one of the top 3 receivers in the league at one point, and now, where is he? He's being released by the Cleveland Browns. So
he's more trouble than he's worth.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know. He hasn't caused a whole lot of trouble out in Cleveland since he's been there. His production has just not been what Cleveland would want, and there hasn't been that chemistry between Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham Jr. The chemistry just wasn't there ever since he got out to Cleveland. And that's why he came to an agreement on his release, because he wants to go to a team that he can contribute for, that he can win with. And he doesn't feel that that's the Cleveland Browns. And kind of the same thing with Desean Jackson. He just wasn't getting used with the LA Rams. So he asked for and got his release. So now you have the two wide receivers on the market. I don't think either one is going to come in and be a number one on whatever team ends up signing them. They'll have to learn the offense. It'll take a week or two to get up to speed with them on that. But if they can come in and be a number 2 or number 3 receiver on whatever team they're going to, I think the two of them can contribute, and the team uses them, I won't say sporadically, but very judiciously. I'll put it that way. I think the two of those guys can contribute on whatever team ends up signing them. And I want to remind everybody, you can comment on our social media sites. So if you have a topic you want to hear us discussing, or you want to chime in with your opinions, feel free to do so, and we will see the topics pop up on our social media pages. I want to also ask you guys, we got the Eagles taking on a much tougher opponent this week than the Detroit Lions that they took on last week. Jeff, do you think the Eagles coaching staff learned anything in their win over the Lions in terms of wanting to run the ball a little bit more? or do you think the coaching staff will go back to their pass-happy ways this week? Jeff?
Did we lose Jeff?
Well, that'll be an interesting game to watch this week to see whether or not the Eagles continue to run the football, because that's really the key. When they ran the football last week against Detroit, they had a lot of success. They ran up a lot of yards, but that's Detroit. I mean, Detroit's a joke. I mean, them in Jacksonville really are
Detroit
the
is
worst
the
teams in the
Phoenix
league.
Coyotes of the NFL.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you look at the Philadelphia Eagles. You can't really measure them too much off of that game. On the other end, the Chargers, they're not playing that well. They're coming cross country. They're coming to Philadelphia. I can see this as a game that the Eagles could vulture, so to speak, to use a bird term, vulture. So it's a game that look. I like Justin Hebert. I like him as a quarterback. He's good. I think he's star in the making for the LA Chargers. But at the same time, there is. I have this feeling that this is a game which, if they do decide, if the Eagles coach does decide to continue to run the football, that they can come out and they can win this football game. No question about it.
Yeah, what did you think, Mike? Last week, the Eagles ran the ball quite a bit, got their running game established, were able to literally run roughshod over the Lions. Do you think it was more the Lions being really bad, or do you think the Eagles coaching staff might have actually learned something and will actually run the ball more?
It's the Detroit Lions. They were going to run all over the Lions. The Lions are a basic joke. Now that you've got a much tougher opponent, I can't say that you learned a lot from playing against the Detroit Lions, who are destined for the number 1 pick. So,
yeah. What did you think, Shane?
No, I still look at the team that they're going to play against in San Diego, in LA Chargers, is a different type of a faster paced defense. And I think their job right now is they're going to try to rattle Jalen. No question about it. They're not going to give Jalen all the time that Detroit did to allow him to do certain things and see the field a lot faster, and be comfortable. They're not going to make him comfortable. They're going to make him very uncomfortable. And I think that, the Chargers also have a lot of weapons on that offense. No question about that. Eckler's playing really well. You got Keenan Allen, and then you got Williams as well. And even the underrated Jared Cook as their tight end. I mean, the guy is a go-to. There's no question about it. Defensively, though, I still think that they're a lot faster and they're going to be able to kind of keep it in check. But again, too, is that the play calling. If the Eagles go back to that same old RPO action, they're going to just shoot themselves in the foot, and they need to get the running game going. The problem is, do you trust what you have back there now in the run?
I wouldn't.
I mean, like you lost your main guy. You know what I mean? He finally gets to the opportunity, and he goes down, and it's like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, which is really, it's unfortunate because, like I said, I think Sanders is a tremendous player. I really do, and I do think Goddard is a good tight end out there. I think he's going to do fine in things like this, but they need to get that some running back going. Whether that's going to be Scott or whether it's going to be Gainesville, there you got to get somebody going. You know what I mean? And that to me is very, very key. The problem is that Philadelphia's coaching staff is too fast to change that playbook as soon as they can't get the run game going. They can't keep with it. They don't want to keep with it. You know what I mean? They get all rattled and they're like, okay, let's just pass. But it doesn't work out for them that way. They can't seem to stick with the process or that script that they have for how many, run plays they want to do. And I think that's the problem. And I think that's going to be a very big problem as they move forward. And I don't think you can just rely on Jalen without something happening to him, you know what I mean, with the way the defenses are playing lately. And you can't afford it. Look, guys are going down. Quarterbacks are going down a lot faster with little injuries here because they're taking off and running. And Jalen is going to be one of those guys that's going to be the next target like that due to the fact. So I do think they need to keep with it. I do think that the Chargers are going to win this one, not by much, but I do think they're going to win it.
Yeah. What is your prediction for this game, Jeff? You think the
Yeah,
Chargers?
like I said, I think the Eagles can win this game.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be close. I mean, I'm looking at, I'd say 24-21, something of that nature, 24-17, something of that
Yeah.
nature for the Eagles. Because, like I said, I think this is a game that the Eagles can win with a team coming cross country into Philadelphia. If this game was in LA, I might have a little different take on it. But,
Yeah.
the game is in Philly. They're coming off, they're coming off a big win as far as the Eagles organization goes. So you really want to cement that. You really want to cement
Yep.
that win. And I will also say this. On the flip side, with the AFC West, and Shane can probably speak to this. This is a big game for the Chargers. The Chargers, lose this game. I mean, that really is going to affect them, in that division for trying to compete, for even for that division. Because look, I mean, if Kansas City were to lose, today, and not that Kansas City is really, up there right now in the division, but still, I mean, if you look at that division, the way it's stacked up, I mean, this game does present itself as, a game that, if LA were to lose it, the LA Chargers, I'm talking about, were to lose this game, that's going to present some. They're going to look back on this and they're going to say, well, that might be the game that cost us the division. As tight as that division really is, Shane.
No, you're absolutely correct. Like, look, right now, when you break out the wild card situation, I mean, Chargers are in the wild card ahead of Kansas City in this one,
right?
But that's why I said is Kansas City needs these two teams are digging down so deep to keep winning because they've got no choice. You know what I mean? Because someone is going to be on the outside. It really is going to be like that, and it's coming down to the rest of their schedule as they move forward. So all these wins. All these games that they're playing, you cannot take them for granted. Whether you're favored by 1 or favored by 15, you know what I mean? You need to win. It's simple as that. Kansas City, if I'm Kansas City right now after last win that they just got, which was barely anything, I mean, they're the ones that are shaken. They're the ones that are like very, very rattled. And that's why I said I still have LA Chargers ahead of them just due to the fact that I have not seen Kansas City perform this bad. And just be so all over the place, you know what I mean? With Mahomes, with Kelsey, with that defense, allowing so much to happen that I really don't have Kansas City high up like everybody else had them. And I'm not going to say that my Vegas Raiders are going to take this division or anything like that because anything can happen. And considering everything that is happening in that organization, I'm surprised where they are, you know what I mean? But at least they're ahead of the game by a little bit, you know what I mean? So they still have that opportunity to, if they do slide, to still possibly be a wild card contender. Kansas City, they're just praying that everybody loses and that they can get a win. Chargers are in that same boat, but I just think that Chargers may have a little bit more on paper and as a team, a little bit better of a unit, and I think that's why they're going to beat Philly, and they need to beat Philly.
And just remember this. I mean, this is a longer season, this year in the NFL. You have that extra game now, to deal with. So we're just now coming upon mid-season. I mean, we're in week 9, and we're just now coming upon mid-season, really, for a lot of these teams. As a lot of teams have had their bye weeks, and a lot of teams are, starting to, look at it. But we used to look at Thanksgiving as kind of, we get to Thanksgiving, hey, the season's mostly over. Now, you have a couple of games in January now that you got to deal with. So, these teams have to take, the long approach, and that brings me to the Dallas Cowboys in the fact, Shane, that they decided to rest Dak Prescott, and boy did they everybody is smiling right now in that organization, Shane, because they're in the catbird seat right now in the NFC. I mean, they really are. They can do no wrong. They can start wherever they really want. And that organization from Jerry Jones on down. We've talked about, the circus that organization has been in previous years. But, boy, that organization right now is just, winning games that they previously lost in previous seasons. And now, here they are, minus Dak Prescott winning with a quarterback that, has been around. I mean, he's not like, a rookie by any means. But by the same token, he hasn't had a lot of starts in the NFL. But, here he was vulturing a game here for the Dallas Cowboys, Shane.
Yep, and that's it exactly. All of a sudden, they've got some health going their way. They've got a running back that's playing well. They've got the receivers that are catching the balls and doing everything. And Dak was able to take the not only get the bye week, but as well as be able to take a game. So that's 2 weeks off, to rest his calf and the Achilles and everything like this that's problems, and to get that with this backup QB coming in there, good old Cowboy somehow was able to get the win for them. You know what I mean? It's showing a little bit, but you also got to give the defense a little bit of credit too out there. I mean, I didn't think that defense would be able to withstand. And again, too, we always say this throughout the season, you're going to get banged up, you're going to get injured, so on and so on. Next man up, everything like this. Deals happen, whatever, players go down, so and so. It's getting to that playoffs. It's getting into the wild card position because the whole game changes. And it now comes down to who are you going to face? Because sometimes it's a big surprise for you. And Cowboys are doing everything they can to make sure that they can get that division wrapped up, not stress about everyone else in there, and just focus on who they may have to play. You know what I mean, when it comes down to it. Because like I said, that's going to be the gridiron of this games for this team. Are they going to be that rested compared to other teams? Because they've been able to, in between weeks, rest a guy here or there, bring in one, sit one out type of thing like that and everything. That's going to be tough. And like I said, Cowboys are in a decent position. There's no question about it. But you also got to look and say, have they dominated and played against teams that have put a little fear into them too? You know what I mean? Have they played, some the Buffalo Bills? Have they played teams like that? You know what I mean? That can pretty much make you kind of rattle and say, yeah, we got to still go back to the drawing board because we're not quite as good, as we think we are. Just because we're winning our division, we may not be.
Let me ask you a question, Shane. Do you think that this extra game, the longer season, may force some teams into thinking, hey, it's a longer season, so we're going to employ maybe this NBA strategy of resting some of these players to keep them healthy, because now you've added that extra game at the end of the regular season now. So now you've got some teams. They brought this up on the broadcast. I think it's an interesting debate to see whether the NFL is going to go sort of the way of the NBA and sort of resting some of these guys to have them ready for the playoffs, to have them ready if they're in that kind of position. Obviously, the Dallas Cowboys have one loss, so they're in kind of more of a unique position. And it's still a short season as far as the NFL, by NFL terms, but still, teams are starting to look at things now a little differently and starting to take more of a long approach to the season.
I think that in that debate that you will see that happening. I do. I think some teams are going to try to time it of when they can possibly get extra rest due to the fact of when they can get their break. You know what I mean? So goes from the one game to possibly a 2-week type of thing like Dak got and everything. And I also think, though, it's going to depend on where they are ranked, where their placing is in their division and in the overall process too, and what they've got coming up. You know what I mean? If they know that they can, as an example, you use Dallas. Look at they're ahead. They're ahead of everybody right now. They could afford, and that was brought up, is having Dak rest for one. They felt that they could afford to still, even if they lost, still be in the driver's seat in where they are. You know what I mean? And I think that's something that, again, it's strategy, right? You're going to get these coaches. You're going to get everybody using that type of strategy and thinking like that and saying, yep, you know what? I can take you out. Hey, they could have taken Zeke out because they trust that much in Poland, right? You know what I mean? To be their starting tailback as well. And things like this. So I do think you're going to see that later down the road of some teams and everything not wanting to risk, and also these guys and their age factor too of the pounding, especially if they played a few hard games before their break and things like that. So yeah, and it's going to be, like you said, an NBA process where it's going to be load management, in this way, and that's what they're going to do. But they're going to be smart about it too. And like I said, is I think it's just because we've added that extra game, the time, the traveling, and everything like that goes with it. It is going to wear on them, and you are seeing that. And plus, again, too, is if a guy does catch COVID or if a simple little injury and you're not quite 100%, give me that extra week off, you know what I mean, type of deal like this. So I could see the Chiefs doing with Tyreek and those guys like this. You know what I mean? It's going to happen.
Yeah, what do you think, Mike? Do you think teams will start resting players to keep them healthier?
Yeah, I think they're gonna adopt this NBA sort of model where late in the season they're gonna be resting their first stringers, bringing in their second and third stringers to keep their first line healthy as we get closer to the playoffs with this longer schedule implemented. And once we get into like 2022, 2023, we get the 18 game schedule. We're going to be seeing more of the NBA model of resting the starters, putting in the backups. This is going to get out of hand pretty quickly.
I think so too. I mean, we're seeing it more and more where the star players are going down, and you got to do something to keep the star players active because that's what people want to see. I mean, you look at a premier matchup today. We have the Los Angeles Rams against the Tennessee Titans, and it's Adrian Peterson versus Von Miller in this game. Derrick Henry goes down and he suffers what could be a season-ending injury. And the Titans go out and sign Adrian Peterson, and he's going to be, I believe, the primary ball carrier in this game for the Tennessee Titans. They're a run-first team. They like to run, and run some more. And losing Derrick Henry the way that they have, they're going to turn now to Adrian Peterson and see how much gas he has left in the tank for the rest of the season. But yeah,
make the quarterback beat him, Jay. Just make the quarterback beat him. That's what you're going to do right now. If your defense right now is just make Adrian Peters make Adrian Peterson beat you. That's what it's going to be. So
yeah, exactly. What looked to be a really good matchup. Now, all of a sudden, I would say that matchup kind of got downgraded just a little bit because, of course, the Rams picked up Von Miller to bolster their defense, and Titans lose Derrick Henry, the premier running back in the NFL, bar none. I mean, he was literally lapping the field. Now that he's gone, some other running backs will come to the forefront, I believe, but how do you see that one going down, Jeff? Do you think the Titans have a shot, or do you think the Rams are going to win?
Oh, I think the Rams are going to win this, easy. I mean, the Rams are playing on a different level than most teams in the NFL right now. I mean, they're just in, I mean, they get Von. I mean, like I said, I mean, they're getting everybody they can possibly get their hands on. They got a great GM out there. I mean, not that I root for that team by any stretch, being a 49ers fan in that division, but you just got to hand it to that organization and how they really go out there and they're in. Not they say win now. They're in win today. I mean, they're like go out there and win as many possible games as they can and try to get as many great players and stars as they can on that team. And Stafford has fit right in on that team. There's no question about it. And the game that I'm looking at in that division though right now is Arizona and San Francisco. I think that's going to be a fascinating game today because the 49ers get their tight end back, which is going to, improve things there. So that should be a fascinating game to watch to see, how Arizona responds coming off, of that tough loss that they had. So that'll be an interesting game, and to see if the 49ers can sort of, vulture a win here against the, against the Cardinals.
And Kyle Murray is still a game time decision.
Yeah, exactly. I won't be sorry if he doesn't play. So
no. But you know what though? I think the biggest thing was the last week's game with Kyle Murray out there. You saw his weaknesses. You know what I mean? And I think that's where the 49ers are looking at and saying, we've seen what's happened. We've seen what we can use to our advantage, especially when you look at who beat them and with the lack of guys that they did not have out there as their starters. You can look at this and say, you know what, we're good to go here. So I really do think the 49ers have more than an opportunity and a chance to take this game against Arizona in this way because Arizona is banged up everywhere.
And for a change, Shane, the 49ers are actually healthy. So
Exactly. And that's what I mean. And I think where they're playing and everything like that, I think it's going to be fine for them. But I just think because Kyle Murray is not going to be able to put as much as he can onto that leg, because that's what's bothering him the most, it's going to affect him. And I don't think, if all counts go, he may not be out there. He may not be able to play.
Shane, we had an interesting thing go down. Do you think there may be a quarterback controversy with the New York Jets? I know they got blown out by the Indianapolis Colts, but Mike White was looking pretty good the week prior, engineered a touchdown drive before he went out. Of course, you got Zach Wilson looking to come back from his injury. Would you stay with Mike White or would you go back to Zach Wilson, Shane, if you're the New York Jets?
First off, I don't think you got any controversy just yet. I think what you need to do is allow who's the healthiest first to get out there and play. So if that's White, that's White. If it's Wilson, it's Wilson. I think where you're going to get the controversy is next year when these guys are back in camp and allowing them. And I think this is great that you're getting White, who's actually performed, and you can see what he's got. I mean, the one game where he throws for 400 yards, that's great. You know what I mean? You saw something out there. Now, unfortunately, the next game he gets banged up. I mean, that's going to happen as part of the sport. But you got to look and say, where do we have a good 1-2 punch here? Like, do we have a good solid backup as well in case our number one does go down? And these are young guys. You know, that's the thing. They've got some young, talented quarterbacks. It's not like you got some older guys sitting there doing nothing. Like, these are young guys that want to play. So they're going to want to play for you in that way. And I think that's what's going to cause a little bit of a controversy, but I think it's not going to be until camp of next year. I think right now, Jets are just saying, who's going to give us the best chance to win? You're playing. It's simple as that. That's all they care about.
And I'm going to say this, Shane. You know, I think the bigger concern is you have a defensive head coach in Robert Saleh, and that defense got torched by Indianapolis. So I think that right there is obviously the bigger concern right now for the Jets right now, because you invested in a head coach, and I obviously, knowing Saleh, being a 49er fan as I am, I mean, I'm just surprised at how bad that defense played against Indianapolis. To be quite honest, for Saleh to say, well, this is the best defense I've seen, because that's what I heard on the broadcast. Well, this is the best defense I've had. Come on now. I mean, you were in San Francisco, and you had some pretty darn good defenses out there. I mean, and your defense is getting torched by Indianapolis. Come on, Robert.
Listen, Robert slapped the 49ers in the face with that comment. Okay,
yeah,
let's put it that way. And I'll say that right there. He slapped them in the face. And the thing, too, that I saw in that Colts game was I saw players actually slowing down and letting that offense get by them. You know what I mean? They didn't give it their all. They weren't chasing them down. They weren't fighting right to the end. You know what I mean? So to me, you've got more quitters on that Jets defense than anything. And you're absolutely correct with a defensive coach, head coach, is getting his team slammed by another offense. You've got accountability here. Who is going to be accountable for this but you? It's your defense. Yep. You're the one in charge. But like I said, they don't have that talent. And as much as he wants to praise them, and he's got to, because, well, I can't cut up my own team. Yeah, you actually can cut up your own team, because that shows you what a head coach does. You know what I mean? They may not be they may be ticked off at you or whatever it is. So what? You know what? Honesty. Be honest with them and saying, we are not even playing close to our potential. You know what I mean? And he should be bragging and saying, I've coached teams at that level. That's what he was brought in for. So in all honesty, his comments of saying that type of stuff is absolutely a slap in the face of the 49ers. And you're right. Next year, I do believe they are going to be drafting big time when it comes to defensive players, because they need something up there, because his defense is quitting on them.
Yeah, what did you take away from that game on Thursday night, Mike?
Well, I actually did not watch that game. To be
good for you, Mike.
Come on, Mike.
I knew that game was going to be bad. Thursday night games are inherently bad in my book, so.
Yeah, I tell you, I agree with Jeff. When you're a defensive minded head coach, you're supposed to have a really, I mean, whatever head coach you come from, if you're offensive minded, your offense is supposed to be good. If you're defensive minded, your defense is supposed to kind of lead the way. And like you said, Jeff, with Robert Sala being a go for it, a hyper guy. We saw him last season on the 49ers sidelines being rah rah and all hyper and all this and that. You would expect the Jets to be this defensive minded team, and for them to
And they weren't.
not at all, Mike.
They let an Indianapolis team, a sucky Indianapolis team, got 45 points on them.
I wouldn't say they're sucky, but they're not necessarily the greatest team. And for them to put up 40, for them to have no resistance at all by the Jets defense was absolutely a horrible look, especially, and I know it was a short week, I understand that, but you're a defensive minded head coach, you're on a standalone game, the nation is watching you, and to come up with that poor of a defensive performance is absolutely disgusting by the Jets. But I do believe that there could be some question as to whether if Mike White and is healthy, whether or not he becomes the starting quarterback over Zach Wilson, because he seems to understand Mike LaFleur's offense a little better than Zach Wilson does. So maybe you have Zach spend some time on the sideline, gathering himself a little bit, watching what Mike White does, how he operates the offense, and see what happens with Mike White if he gets you, if he can get you to more wins. Because I do believe that they were going to roll with Mike White until he got hurt on Thursday night. So we'll see what happens there with the New York Jets. Before we get out of here, guys, I just want to touch on a couple of other things. Jeff, we had Buster Posey announcing his retirement from the San Francisco Giants this past week. I think he's a Hall of Fame catcher. What do you think?
Yes, absolutely. Whether he goes in on the first ballot, we'll have to wait and see on that, whether the voters actually get him in on the first ballot. But yeah, I think Buster Posey is a Hall of Famer. Look, the guy's won 3 World Series, been, an outstanding catcher. It's just unfortunate that he had the injuries he did. I mean, we all know that, the catching rules that have come into play now in baseball are a direct result of, the hits and the hit that, Buster Posey took, trying to block the play and trying to keep catchers healthy in the, but behind the plate, which I agree with, to try and help these catchers out. But at the same note, he's just been, in his career an offensive force. I mean, the Giants would not have, won the World Series that they did without the contributions of Buster Posey. So, and we know that firsthand in Philadelphia, seeing, the Giants come in and beat the Phillies, at the height of their run. So, this is, he's gonna, he's had a great career, no question about it. And the only regret that I have is the fact that he couldn't put up even greater numbers because he had the injuries he did.
Yep. Mike, what did you think about Buster Posey retiring?
Well deserved. World Series champion, league MVP, Gold Glove and a Silver Slugger. He's done it all.
Yep.
Whether he gets in first ballot or not, that's up to the baseball writers to decide. But he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame after what he's done.
I agree, absolutely. And also, Jeff, we had some Phillies news breaking this past week. 6 players have been outrighted and elected free agency. J.D. Hammer and Ramon Rosso, catcher Andrew Knapp, infielder Ronald Torres, and outfielders Odubel Herrera and Travis Jankowski. Any thoughts on those guys, Jeff?
Not really. You're talking about mostly, backup players or bench players. I mean, Odubel Herrera obviously was, a starting player, but I'm not surprised that they, let Odubel go. And who knows? Maybe he'll return as a guy invited to spring training. Who knows? What Odubel's future holds in the cards for him. But at this point, I think the Phillies have to look to try to upgrade their talent in the outfield. I mean, there's no question about it. It's Bryce Harper and who else? Because I don't think Metuchen's going to be back. I don't think that. So at this point, it's kind of like, okay, you have Bryce Harper and who else do you have out there in the outfield? So they got to figure that out, and they've got to get that straightened out right there. They have, Andrew Knapp being gone. They have catching depth in the organization. I mean, that's one of the positions that they do. So I'm not totally surprised by that choice.
Yeah.
And like I said, let the moves begin. My whole thing as far as baseball goes right now is a drama, Mike, going on with the New York Mets, and the fact that nobody, Mike, wants to run the Mets organization right now behind your billionaire owner.
Alderson. It's all Alderson's fault. No one wants to be a subordinate of Alderson. As long as Sandy Alderson's there, Mets are going to be missing out on some prime candidates.
They already are. Everybody that they've come in with has said, no, I don't want to be a part of this. So it's this is becoming an embarrassment, really, for the New York Mets. And like it or not, it falls on you may say it's Sandy Alderson, but I don't know if Jay would agree with me on this. That it falls on the owner. It falls on Steve Cohen, really, and the culture that he creates in the organization.
Well, yeah, absolutely. A lot of things stream down from the ownership, and we had the Yankees assistant GM Gene Afterman decline the Mets, decline an interview with the New York Mets. I mean, just absolutely crazy. We had Red Sox assistant GM Raquel Ferreira turn down the Mets interview opportunity as well this past week. Like you said,
she was one of my early favorites.
Yeah, and I'm not even going to buy. No, you know what? I don't have to interview. I'm fine with you right here. I'm fine where I am. I'll be an assistant GM with the Boston Red Sox rather than assuming the full GM role with the New York Mets. I'm fine being an assistant GM with the Red Sox. I'm fine where I am now.
That would have been a trailblazing move right there.
Yeah.
It would have. It probably would have been. It would have been a nice move for the New York Mets. To at least interview. At least, hey, will you interview with us? Come on, no, I'm fine.
20 years in baseball, great baseball mind. And she would have been only the second female GM after Kim Ng in Miami.
Yeah, and
that would have made all the headlines, not just in New York, but in New Jersey as well. Yeah. And she would have made SportsCenter. So,
oh, absolutely. We also had Mike Conforto and Syndergaard now have until November 17th to decide whether or not to accept a qualifying offer worth $18.4 million for 2022.
I think Syndergaard takes his QO.
I think so?
Yeah, I think Syndergaard takes his QO. He missed all last season because of Tommy John surgery. He needs a make good season. This is going to be his make good season in 2022. Conforto, same boat as Syndergaard. He didn't have the best of seasons. It was injury plagued. He needs a make good season to look good for free agency in 2022 off season. I think he takes the QO.
Yeah, but $18 million for a guy who hasn't pitched in 2 years. I don't know if that's a prudent signing. Do you think?
Yeah, but that's Syndergaard. I mean, you gotta have him behind DeGrom. You look at that rotation; it looks a lot better. If Syndergaard is healthy and he's Syndergaard, if he's Thor, then that rotation looks a whole lot better.
You have DeGrom, you have Syndergaard, you have Carrasco, Taijuan Walker.
Yeah, I guess maybe you do have to, but what do you think about Conforto, though, Mike?
Conforto did not have the greatest of seasons.
No, he didn't. Yeah, I don't know.
He needs to make good. He needs to make good from 2021. I think he'll get it in 2022. I think he takes the QO.
Gotcha. And the other issue I wanted to bring up during the show is Jeff and Mike. the 76ers are doing well without Ben Simmons being on the court.
Surprise, surprise. That team actually gels, without an egotist, without somebody who, look, I agree with a lot of people who say, look, they just need to get rid of him already.
Yeah.
Just take whatever you can get and just, get him off the team because he doesn't want to play. He doesn't want to play.
Ben Simmons has become the basketball version of Jack Eichel. He's toxic, and the 76ers are asking too much for him. They're asking, what, 3 first-round picks?
Something. They are asking a high,
He is Jack Eichel meets Deshaun Watson. I don't want that on my team.
No, I agree with you. I think Ben Simmons, I would say Ben Simmons is a huge distraction, but you know what? The team is winning without him. So how much of a distraction can Ben Simmons actually be currently if the team is winning without him on the court? Of course, the players and Doc Rivers will continue to be asked about him because we always want the update on Ben Simmons. But you know what? Hey, he is what he is. Mike, I'll go to you real quick for your NASCAR update of the week.
Yes, today is the championship race at Phoenix Raceway. 4 drivers. First one back after 500 kilometers takes the championship. It is down to Truex Jr., Hamlin, Kyle Larson, and Chase Elliott. And last year, for the championship race, Chase Elliott dominated and took home the championship. I think he'll have a repeat performance. It'll be Chase Elliott winning his second championship.
Gotcha. And Mike, can I get your 3-pack of picks for the week before we sign off?
All right. I'm going to take Arizona over San Francisco. I'm going to take Kansas City over Green Bay because no Aaron Rodgers. And I will take Buffalo over Jacksonville. I'm going all safe picks this week.
Gotcha.
I'm going all safe this season.
I hear you. I am gonna go with New Orleans over Atlanta. I am gonna go with one second here. I am gonna go with. So I went with. I said New Orleans over Atlanta. I am gonna go with obviously Buffalo over Jacksonville, and I will go with Baltimore over Minnesota. Jeff, your 3-pack of picks for the week.
I'm taking the Cowboys, the Ravens, and the Bills.
Gotcha. Very cool. Jeff, before we end the broadcast, anything that we haven't gotten to, any final words that you got?
Just I wasn't on last week, so just the World Series. Congratulations to the Atlanta Braves for winning the World Series. I mean, geez, they did it over the Houston Astros, so I was kind of rooting for the Houston Astros, obviously. But congratulations to the Braves. Congratulations to Freddie Freeman and that organization. They pulled off something that was a miracle because they were really down in the dumps. I mean, the Mets were high up to begin the season. Then you had the Phillies kind of come up and they made a run around August, but the Braves just took off in that second half of the season, and they did it without Acuna Jr. So just a tremendous job, retooling their outfield, midway through the season. So they're going to be a force to be dealt with in the National League for years to come. And the Dodgers should be, as well as every team in the East, should be concerned about the Atlanta Braves going forward.
Yeah. What did you think about the World Series, Mike?
What do I think about the World Series?
Yeah.
Well, it should have been the Mets. Had the Mets just built up a 8 or 10 game lead in the second half of the season, they would have buried the Braves. But injuries, especially to DeGrom, sunk them.
Yep. No doubt about it. And I want to echo Jeff's thoughts a little bit. I was kind of rooting for the Atlanta Braves because I think I've said this before on the show. The National League East got banged around all season long about how bad the teams were in the National League East and how mediocre the teams were in the National League East. and how good the Dodgers were, and how good the San Francisco Giants were, and how much of a hot streak the St. Louis Cardinals were on. And then you looked over in the American League and you
Well, just remember, Jay, just put in some perspective that the Dodgers, and I think Mike would agree with this, the Dodgers were really, really banged up when they got to facing the Braves. I mean, they had some serious injuries on that team. Not to take away from what the Atlanta Braves did, mind you, but the same note, I mean, the Dodgers weren't necessarily the Dodgers, by the time they faced them in the league championship series.
True. I will say that. But again, the National East, we heard, about how mediocre the division was. And it was good to see the World Series winner come out of the National East and kind of prove that, once you get invited to the dance, anything can happen. You just got to get that lottery ticket in there. And then, hey, if your team comes together and you get hot, anything can happen, So, Mike, any final words for this week?
No, but I would like to give a shout out to the Hightstown High School football team for at least making the state playoffs. They got blown out 50-7 against Winslow, but shout out to the Hightstown High football team and to the cheer squad for pushing them throughout the season. Go Rams.
Absolutely. Go Rams. All right. And we want to thank everybody for joining us again on the Sports Skillet Radio Show. Stay tuned. We could have more programs joining us coming up in the future. Check out sportsskilletradio.com for our Twitter feed, show updates, great articles by Mike Nebbia on the site as well. So we got great features up on the site, sportsskilletradio.com. Reminder, you can leave your comments here on our social media sites, and we'll get to them. We'll answer them as well. So we hope everybody has a great week. We hope to see you again next week here on the Sports Skillet Radio Show. Have a great week. Enjoy the football Sunday, and we'll see you right back here again next week.